Hello, and thank you so much if you've made it to part 2. So thanks for coming this far, guys. Guess what? We've moved past the bad. We've moved into the middle ground of cinematic quality for one specific year. And where do we left off at Ad Astra? That was number 24. So now we're going to kick it off. Number 23, Zombieland Double Tap. Let me preface this by saying that Zombieland 2009 was and is one of my favorite movies I've ever seen. It holds a very special place in my heart. It was my first R-rated movie, and I love every single second of it. It's a joy to watch every single time. I'm a big fan of Jesse Eisenberg. I'm a big fan of Woody Harrelson. Emma Stone is in this movie. I'm just kidding. She's good. She's good. I don't much care for the young one though. And Zombieland Double Tap, not a terrific sequel, but it was not bad, and I'm very, very proud of them for that. I was worried that it would be terrible. A sequel 10 years after the first one, that's not something that's known for going well. And they actually executed it okay. A lot of people liked it much more than I did. So if you're going to whine and complain that this is a little too low on the list, you're probably in the right. That's up there with Shazam. That was maybe carelessly placed. But you know what? I do recommend Zombieland Double Tap. It's very funny. The performances are good. It's not as good as Zombieland, but it's not a disappointing sequel. I was worried that it would ruin the movie for me forever, and it didn't. So I definitely recommend Zombieland Double Tap to just about everybody that saw Zombieland. Number 22. Get ready for a lot of twos, because this one is It Chapter 2. I really liked It Chapter 1. This one, just like Zombieland, not as good. I thought maybe it was not as good of a sequel, but both of those movies are still really terrific. It Chapter 1's excellent, but It Chapter 2 was good. It wasn't great. It was good. The performances, pretty good. Bill Hader really shined in this movie. I think that's great because I think he's actually a really terrific actor. This movie is the second half of the It story. In this version, they're adults, and they go back and fight the clown man again. It was kind of lame, and I honestly would rather have read the book. But it's a little big, and I'm a slow reader. So instead I saw the movie by myself. Number 21, Godzilla King of the Monsters. I know some of you are probably yelling at me right now and saying Godzilla's too high up on the list. I disagree. This movie I was actually very interested in. It was a little long, and the monster fights could have been better, but I thought it was great that they brought diversity to the screen with the monsters. I don't care that much about the people, guys. You know that. You know that the Godzilla movie should be about Godzilla and the Godzilla-like characters, like the Mothra and Ghidorah and Rodan, and they're pretty great in this movie. I thought that it was really cool to see all those kooky characters come to life on the screen. But I thought the people stuff was kind of interesting too. Not all of it, but the explanation that the big monsters are like antibodies and that humanity is like a virus. I thought it was really interesting that they were given a purpose in this movie, and I wanted to watch more of it as it went along. Because I was curious if they were going to have any more wacky theories. I recommend this movie, I guess. It's long. If you like Godzilla, sure, why not? If you don't like Godzilla, watch it. If you don't like it, turn it off. Number 20, El Camino. I never thought that they would do any kind of movie related to Breaking Bad, and I'm glad that they did. I was very pleasantly surprised with this movie. I thought everyone was great. Even Jesse Plemons, who came back as a fat version of his dead character. This told the story of Jesse Pinkman after Breaking Bad ends, which his story kind of ended on a cliffhanger, and it wasn't one that people were like, oh, good cliffhanger. They were like, hey, we care a lot about this character, and we want to see what actually happened to him. So they said, fine, we'll come up with a really fun story, and we'll tell it to you. It was very cool and self-contained. It didn't feel too much like Breaking Bad, and it didn't feel too distant from Breaking Bad. I don't think it's as good as Better Call Saul is. That's a great show. But this was still a lot of fun to watch, and if you loved Breaking Bad, this won't ruin it for you. So definitely go check it out, guys. I recommend this movie. Number 19, Dolomite Is My Name. Another one I was very massively impressed with. Eddie Murphy was a lot of fun in this movie. I think it was interesting. It's different. You don't see that story ever, really, especially that it was true. It's kind of incredible that that was a true story. And it was cool to see the story of Rudy Ray Moore played out on screen with such a fun ensemble of people. It wasn't terrific. It was good. The performances were very good. Some of the writing was a little lame, and some of the jokes didn't exactly land. But I don't recommend this one to everybody. I feel like a lot of people won't be entertained by it. If you're interested in kind of like old bad movies, this one kind of tells the story of a blaxploitation movie called Dolomite that came out. I'm really into that stuff. I think it's interesting to watch old bad movies and new bad movies like The Room. So if you're interested in Eddie Murphy movies in general and you'd like to see him in maybe a more serious role, it's still kind of ridiculous, definitely check out Dolomite is My Name. It's on Netflix. It's good. Number 18. I wish I was wearing a bulletproof vest because I know one of you guys is going to come here and shoot me 11 times in the chest. Number 18 is Avengers Endgame. It's not that great, guys. Calm down. It was a fitting conclusion to the Infinity Saga, but it was, I don't think it was, deserving of all the praise and Oscar, not buzz, but it really campaigned to have like an Oscar for Robert Downey Jr. Nobody in this movie deserves an Oscar. That's ridiculous for this. They deserve it for other things. Not for this, though. It just ends. It ends it. It's got a lot of problems. I think the 5-year time jump, when I saw it in the theater, I huffed a little. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I think that's ridiculous. But they handled it well, and I'm happy that it came out as well as it did. It would be really something tragic if it was bad, but it wasn't. But it also wasn't great. So I obviously do recommend Avengers Endgame, as I did Captain Marvel. And I'm going to be recommending this next one, too. Number 17, the other Marvel movie from this year, Spider-Man Far From Home. I really love Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of laughs. I was engaged. I like the new Spider-Man a lot. He's no Tobey Maguire. And if you think otherwise, you're wrong, especially for you, psycho. You know who you are, who thinks Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man. I will crucify you if I hear it again. I went a little far. But Spider-Man Far From Home was a blast. It was very fun. It was funny. I liked Mysterio a lot. Not terrific. It didn't blow my mind. It was no Thor Ragnarok. Of course, it keeps me wanting more Spider-Man, and hopefully we get more Spider-Man. There's been a little bit of a disaster, in case you haven't heard. Obviously, like I said, check it out. It's a lot of fun. The villains are cool. The effects are great. Almost all the performances are fantastic. It's got J.B. Smoove. He's my favorite. Okay, next up. What's next? How's this go? Oh, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. This one's an easy one. I definitely recommend John Wick. They're just fun movies. They're not supposed to be of high cinematic quality and value. That's not how it goes. John Wick Chapter 3 is just more slicing and killing. Though my biggest problem with it is that the ending, it didn't change anything. It ends the same as the second one did. Sorry for spoiling it, but it's John Wick. You'll be fine. Keanu Reeves, as always, is an absolute joy to watch on the screen. Counting up how many times he goes, yeah, in a movie is really excellent. The dog is cool. Lance Reddick gets some action in this movie. He goes like, and John Wick's all like, he gets, of course, a cut on his forehead, and his suit is black, and it's probably raining at some point. These movies are getting weirder and weirder as they go on, and I think it's absolutely terrific to watch how this increases in color. The choreography is fantastic, and I absolutely recommend John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Number 15 is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I have a thing here, and I don't really want to read it because it's really long. This movie is a fictional story, partially fictional. It's based on a real thing, but the main character is completely fictional. He's basically this pessimistic journalist who's having a rough time with his family, who gets tasked with doing like a short interview on Mr. Rogers, who's played by Tom Hanks in this movie. And this movie kind of melted my heart. I really, really love Mr. Rogers. I think that they should be showing it at least once a week on a major network, because people are having a rough time right now, and I don't like it. And this movie was so nice to see. I wish I stayed through the credits because they actually showed real clips, but I had already gotten up, and the people behind me wanted to get out, so I forced me and my parents to leave, and I regret it. This movie's very nice. Very nice. The performances are great. I think some of the camera work is a little janky. Some of it's very good, but overall, it's good. It's a good movie. It's not great. It's got a lot missing from it. I still think that they could have done more with Tom Hanks. I feel like he was still a little too Tom Hanksy and not enough Fred Rogers-y. They could have maybe cast someone better, though I think Tom Hanks is an excellent choice. He doesn't exactly look like Mr. Rogers, but I'm nitpicking. I recommend this movie to every single living human being, no matter where they come from and what language they speak. Everyone should see everything that's ever had Fred Rogers in it. That man is a treasure to humanity, and I think that this movie was a wonderful tribute to him. So yes, see this movie definitely. Big thumbs up from me. Number 14, I watched this the other day, and I gotta say, pleasantly surprised. Booksmart. Booksmart is just like Superbad, but it takes place in the modern era, and the characters are female, and they're very liberal, and it's really interesting to kind of see an alternate modern version of Superbad with completely different characters. It was very funny. The camera work was surprisingly top tier. There were some sequences in this movie that were shot masterfully. Like I said, it's very funny. The performances from everyone are outstanding. In general, with movies, sometimes when there's a large supporting cast, I get really annoyed because they try to squeeze everybody in there. This movie does it just like Superbad does, and I don't mean to keep comparing it to Superbad. The supporting cast in this movie is not annoying. They're very entertaining, they're very fun, and the whole movie feels extremely natural. And it's a nice movie too. I recommend Booksmart to everybody who's not over the age of 73. It does get a little bit raunchy at times. Its biggest downfall is that it is just like Superbad. I mean, with some sequences, it is down to the details, the most minute details and jokes and this and that, identical to Superbad. But the characters are way different, and it's its own movie, and it's good. Check it out. Number 13, The Irishman. Let me kick it off like this. Way too long. It did not need to be that long. I watched it today in one shot. I was very proud. I'm proud of my parents. They made it through it with me. I didn't know that they could pay attention to anything or anyone. The performances in this movie are mostly good. I don't think Robert De Niro did anything special, but the supporting cast totally covers that up. Al Pacino as Jimmy Hoffa is terrific, and Joe Pesci is very un-Joe Pesci-like in this movie. He's very much like an old man. The visual effects are sometimes really impressive. Sometimes they're on Robert De Niro. I think he's supposed to be like a strapping young lad when he's at his youngest in the movie, and he looks like he's 60. And they call him like kid, and I'm like, that guy's your age. It's too long. I don't recommend The Irishman really, unless you're a big fan of Martin Scorsese, in which case, watch it over the course of 7 days. Number 12, final one for this part, The Two Popes. This is another Netflix movie. It's about the man who would become Pope Francis, the current man in the Vatican, as he is just a cardinal. And it's about his relationship with the previous Pope, Pope Benedict, who are very different people. And it was very cool to kind of get an insight into the papacy and the politics that take place in the Vatican. The camera work in this movie was here and there. It differed a lot. I thought that some sequences, I'm like, oh, this is very cool. There's a good style happening. And then it'll just shatter with some bizarre shot. This movie's surprisingly funny, too. Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins, who play the two popes in The Two Popes on Netflix, were both funny in their own ways. Jonathan Pryce especially funny, which leads into one of my complaints. In the beginning of the movie, and I understand that I guess it's supposed to show some kind of change, but I didn't really believe it. They kind of painted Pope Benedict in like this very highly kind of like powerful, authoritative person, and like I don't know anything about him, but like they changed it up by the end of the movie, and I was like, I'm pretty sure he didn't just like change like that. He seemed pretty into his conservative Catholic beliefs. I don't think he'd just be like, I should definitely intentionally hand over the papacy to someone completely different from me. Either way, this is a great movie. It's actually highly educational. I can't speak to how true it is, but this definitely gives you a look into like the very top of it, and it's kind of fascinating. Definitely check out Two Popes on Netflix. Okay guys, that's the end of part 2. The next one is my top 11 movies of 2019, which I'll get into in the next part. Thank you very much again. I love you.